The humor in this is mostly mediocre, but there are some jokes I think are pretty funny, actually.
Don't play dumb with me, Miss Gordon. Yesterday was Monday and today is Tuesday. The day you're expelled.
I guess I can't hold a note that long.
But I suppose when your three main characters never shut up, eventually something they say will land. One thing that surprised me about this, mostly because it's a Lego movie, was that the action in this is really good. It finds the right balance between making memorable superhero moments while still fitting into a Lego mold. I thought the story itself was pretty good, though it's brought down by being presented in such a childish way. I do enjoy the twist that by the end everyone is basically being mind controlled. Oh, but this movie loses points for playing the title song twice. A song that they play in every one of the DC superhero girls movies, and if it was used more sparingly I might not find it as annoying as I do, but I do. Outside of that song though, the music is actually pretty good throughout the film. This actually isn't that bad, considering it bombed at the box office and every critic hated it. The biggest problem is that it's a little over 80 minutes long and most scenes feel rushed. Also, the plot is all over the place sometimes, but the main story involving Jonah Hex's revenge against John Malkovich for killing his family is pretty solid.
That son of a whore knows I am too. Find me something he loves and bring it to me.
It also has some pretty good comic book style action, and it shows exactly what type of movie this is when Jonah attacks some bad guys with his minigun equipped horse near the beginning of the film, making this whole movie feel kind of like a darker version of Wild Wild West or something like that. It actually is also pretty good throughout the film. This is a fairly entertaining movie, but it definitely has almost nothing to do with John Constantine in the comic books outside of sharing a name and having a similar relationship with demons. But the similarities basically end there. This should be taken more as a Keanu Reeves movie than a DC Comics film, as it feels more in line with something from his Johnny Mnemonic phase. It's got a good tone that mixes horror and action to a good degree. The problem is that, for one, the acting is pretty wooden throughout the movie. I mean, that's usually how I expect Keanu to be in most films, but it feels like everyone else is trying to match his personal acting style or something, just by how bored everyone feels throughout the film. Also, the story itself is lacking. The side plot of Constantine dying of lung cancer is just stupid, and feels more than a bit preachy. Many scenes feel like they're merely a stepping stone to get to the next bit of supernatural horror. So there's a lot of filler, but it's still a fairly entertaining endeavor by the end. For a movie that's about 20 minutes long, this was both a solid mystery, though you'll never figure it out by the end if you don't know who Bat-Mite is. Because it's Bat-Mite.
Gentlemen, Wonder Woman, this is Bat-Mite, a mischievous, nearly omnipotent interdimensional imp, my biggest and most misguided fan.
This is also a pretty funny one considering how lackluster the humor usually is in these straight-to-DVD Lego movies.
Your cage was only designed to contain our superpowers, so we escaped in a non-super way. We simply opened the door.
His biggest problem is that it's 22 minutes long, and because of that it can't really do much more than set up a mystery and then have an action-y bit at the end to top it all off. It's fun, but it's also not worth talking about anymore. This was good.
Ooh, a chase scene. I love chase scenes.
Aside from writing things in 3-act structure, another thing budding screenwriters can keep in mind is that movies are all about setups and payoffs. Something this film knows very well is almost everything referenced in the first half of the film is called back to or becomes very important in the second half of the film.
Fun fact. At the subatomic level, dead ends aren't really dead ends at all. There is always space between the molecules that allow atoms to move between them.
Another thing I appreciate in this one is the story. These straight-to-DVD Lego movies tend to be hit or miss, but this one was pretty solid throughout. It helps that the story has a lot going on without being overly stuffed with uninteresting plot points. There's the main plot of Reverse Flash stealing Barry's powers, and Barry having to figure out how to get them back, and I'm getting stuck tiny and then having to get back to Justice League headquarters in such a condition. Actually, I rather like the Atom sections as they feel like an adaptation of the earliest superhero comics where heroes talk to themselves and made lots of puns.
Hard, a cataclysm. Every mouse, a monster.
Maybe a little Adam West Batman as well with the sudden ass pulls and convenient solutions to impossible problems.
A little-known hypothesis about arachnids is that they can be hypnotized by flashing lights. Can science prevail? Will the spider be hypnotized? Will I learn about spider digestion from the inside?
I guess that happened a lot in early comics too. One more thing. Dr. Fate and Zatanna aren't in it that much, but their part is awesome. Considering how filled with fluff the fluff pieces that are the DC superhero girls movies are, this one is still mostly pointless filler for the first 20 minutes or so. But after these time-wasting scenes are scenes that don't waste time. It's got a decent mystery that has horrifying villain stuff going on. At least as horrifying as something this cartoony and childish can be without upsetting parents. Actually, I kind of like these darker tones and more dramatic moments to this one, as it creates an interesting counter to what is otherwise a Saturday morning cartoon feel. And I like this animation style, which I might have said in one of the other ones already, but I think it looks like anime if anime was animated by Disney. The main story is fairly good once we get over the mostly nothing that is the first 20 minutes or so.
Rule, not just Gem World, but the universe!
I also enjoy the side plot with Bumblebee and Batgirl. There's another much more minor story with Hawkgirl and Beast Boy, but you'll notice that none of these plotlines have anything at all to do with the Hero of the Year award. So why the hell is that the title of this movie? This, much like the Superman Shazam thing from earlier, was a series of short films. Unlike that movie though, this one's held together with an overarching story of a bunch of Green Lanterns standing in a line to tell much more interesting stories about much more interesting Green Lanterns. Or at least more interesting than one standing in a line are. This was okay, but with so many storylines that really don't relate to each other outside of they're all about Green Lanterns, this just feels like they're tricking us to watch a series of shorts and just claim it's a movie. Because of that, I really can't put this any higher than this. Every short is good though, just they aren't a film. In this movie, Captain America, Heimdall from the Thor movies, Gamora from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and the comedian from Watchmen all team up to take down some evil dude. And you know he's evil because he blew up a helicopter full of children. Also, he kills everyone around him indiscriminately.
What the hell was that?
You gave me the nod.
A hit him in the face nod, not a throw him off the roof nod.
So yeah, generic bad guy number 5.
Let me have your weapon, Wade.
As a fairly overdone style of action movie that's bogged down by too many cliches, it's still a very enjoyable film, especially if you like army-themed action movies from the 80s, as this feels like something straight out of that era. This has good acting throughout the movie, most actors in roles that they don't normally take, and cinematography makes it feel like it's straight out of a comic book. But it's so cliche it really doesn't stand out from other action movies in the same vein. It's an entertaining, sometimes very funny 90 minutes, but it's also largely a forgettable experience. This does a good job balancing two plot lines. But like so many movies on this list, for some reason, it's got the wrong title, as the Gotham City Breakout is the B plot, while the A plot line involves Batman reconnecting with Deathstroke, weirdly enough, along with their old teacher, and then fighting mole men together. Or he fights Deathstroke who's controlling the mole men, or something. It doesn't really matter, since by the end everyone is friends anyway.
Stay by your side forever.
Oh, that is so sweet, Prince Grungle.
I really like the plotline involving Superman watching over Gotham City.
I think I can handle this non-powered clown all by myself, thank you.
Even though he's super powered, that doesn't mean he can be overconfident when it comes to fighting the Joker.
All right, Joker, you may have tricked me once, or twice.
I like this plotline a lot since it's so rare to see Superman having a hard time doing anything. But as always, his downfall is his own overconfidence, and by the end he's learned nothing. Good old Superman. This film reminds me of old anime films from the 1980s, except they're going for a PG-13 rating, so there isn't nearly as much blood and gore. But the animation, action, and voice acting are all about on par with Japanimation from that era, as it was called during that time. The animation is good, but feels a bit dated, though this would have been great in the 80s. Also, the action is all amazing, even without the excessive gore I crave, but the voice acting is simply adequate.
Have a tie which must be broken. She who is left standing after this final event will be the victor.
Oh, except for Nathan Fillion, who plays Steve Trevor.
Oh man, this is too good to be true.
He does a pretty good job in the role, but everyone else is so incredibly wooden and uninvolved that it's kind of hard to pay attention to whatever anyone is saying, except for Nathan Fillion. He's great, everyone else kind of shitty. The story itself is decent, but feels just like every other origin story involving Wonder Woman. Diana is on her secret island, Steve crashes on Diana's secret island, they leave said island to fight Ares or Nazis or whoever the villain is this time. This did come out before the live-action movie, so really it's more at fault than this one is, but this is also the plot of the TV show from the 70s, so really they're both at fault. Much like the rest of these DC superhero girls things, this one is balancing overly silly teen comedy stuff with usually awesome superhero stuff.
Whoopsie! Don't drop me, I'm fragile. That was weird.
This one, the teen comedy, is basically a different take on Freaky Friday, and then instead of switching bodies, Batgirl and Supergirl switch powers. I know, Batgirl doesn't have any powers, but they make it work, okay? And the main story involves Mira, Aquaman's waterbending girlfriend, and a character I happen to rather like from the comic books. And I've always thought she should be put into more DC properties, and not just because her power set is way better than Aquaman's. Anyway, despite my character bias, this is obviously the best of the direct adaptations of the DC superhero girls movies based on the show of the same name. It doesn't just have a better plotline, it also does that thing I like where A and B stories come together by the end in a way that makes sense. Also a C storyline just for good measure. And though the Freaky Friday stuff is kind of unnecessary, it doesn't distract from the real plot of magically controlled sea monsters attacking Atlantis and the surface world. Actually, the oddest thing about this movie is that Aquaman shows up and completely steals the show for a scene. It's weird, because it's Aquaman.
Without the trident, you are powerless, fish boy.
That's Fish King!